All right, Caleb Cunningham, Leanne, wide receiver out of Choctaw, Mississippi. And he's one of the best in the nation, third ranked according to 247 Sports Composite. And he is a Rebel.
He is a Rebel. This is one that I've been hoping and praying for. This is one that we've been talking about that I felt like, he was obviously committed to Alabama. Alabama took a couple of our guys out there, but I think that it was a testament, like I said, not only when we win big games and we're in big atmospheres like this, when, you can talk about in the recruiting trail, coaches can call, they can send letters, but I really think when players and prospects really experience the atmosphere that is in Oxford, they'll all tell you, Ruby, you've heard this time and time again, it's like none other. And I don't think that Lane Kiffin and his staff could have set up a better recruiting stage than what they did in Georgia. I mean, the elements, everything. We saw Deuce Knight, he's another kid that we've been kind of teeter-tottering with, a quarterback, also Mississippi kid. He was committed to Notre Dame. He's currently committed at Auburn. He showed up surprisingly. There was a lot of elite prospects and 4-stars. Caleb Cunningham also, he had already been there, the visit before the last home game. And then for him to return, even though he was committed to Alabama, was huge. We knew that we were making waves. And then finally, just about an hour ago and everything, I texted Mark and I said, we might be a little bit late to the show because we have our second flip in the SIP after Georgia. Of course, earlier this week, we were able to flip Auburn commit, which is big. Of course, if you're an Ole Miss fan base and you all know what's going on in Auburn, and when you can take one from Hugh Freeze in Auburn, that's also another nice win. Dante Core is another 3-star that we were able to flip after the Georgia game. And of course, commitment wise, we got our first 2026 recruit, another kid from Florida, Zion Legree. He committed. He was there at the game, very close with LaDarian Clardy, who's one of our Ole Miss commits for this season. LaDarian Clardy, Hayden Bradley, Bryson Walters, a lot of our Tally Graham were, on site. As much as the coaches do their recruiting, when it comes time to game time and everything, a lot of our commits and other guys, this is a small circuit, a small time. So, they were really pushing for a lot of these kids. And I know a lot of our commits, a lot of people that are close with Caleb Cunningham, as far as, athletes and prospects, were really hoping for this slip. And then here we are, long and behold, Lane Kiffin, we finally got our guy back. I mean, when you watch his kid, he is just super elite. He oozes athleticism. I mean, he's a player that you can't help but see. Of course, he's as much as he's focused on his recruitment, his team right now, they're 10-1 overall in Choctaw. They play this weekend. They play this Friday. They're number 1 in their district here in Mississippi. So he's trying to lead his state titles. You see all those stats there. I mean, the kid can put up numbers not only on the turf, but on the hardwood, pretty elite players. So like I said, we're going to be recruited as a wide receiver. I'm really excited about this. I'm hoping that Keelan Russell, you're listening to this, and I know that Ole Miss has been in your heart, but I would like to see Keelan Russell also flip to the SIP and maybe join Caleb Cunningham. I think that would be the next Jamar Chase, Joey Burrow combo, but here in Oxford. So like I said, a huge win on the recruiting trail. I believe that we're not done here as far as commitments and prospects. I believe that heading into this next couple of days, we're probably going to see some more commitments, perhaps another flip or two. But like I said, Ruby, you know firsthand how big this is as far as when you can keep an in-state talent. I think, early on in Lane's career, when he first arrived at Ole Miss, we knew that Mississippi had a lot of talented kids. I just don't think we were hitting them as hard as far as keeping them here and recruiting them. But, during Cam Franklin's year, Centurion Perkins' year, a lot of these Mississippi kids were getting a lot of momentum. Will Eccles was another kid, that they were going out into these camps. And I think that the state of Mississippi really got a lot more credibility when they were seeing these kids going to these camps that you normally didn't see a lot of Mississippi kids, like Caleb Cunningham and everything. So there's always been a lot of talent here in the SIP. But I think now, these last couple of recruiting cycles, we've really seen it because these kids are, getting out there, going to these big games, these big camps, being on 7-on-7. So again, this is a huge win for Ole Miss as far as, building up on this recruiting class. And with the flip like this, Mark and Ruby, you both know that this not only helps us for this recruiting class, but for those 2026s and 2027s that are that are, they're ready to shut down and close down. It seems like it's far away, but on the recruitment trail, it's not. When you can lock in these guys, and I do believe that Caleb Cunningham flipping back and coming home back to the SIP is going to be huge in this 2025 class. I wouldn't be surprised if he brings a couple guys along the way here. So I think this is a huge, recruiting move for Ole Miss here.
For sure. And Leanne, you alluded to it, but I worked in recruiting in the 2019 season under Matt Luke, and then when Kiffin took over in 2020. And one of the biggest things that we talked about is all we have to do is get the kids to Oxford. And that's all it takes. I think it's the same for college students in general, and then as well as athletes. Once you experience Ole Miss and Oxford as a whole, it's really hard to go anywhere else. And obviously I have a little bit of bias, but I talked about this last week too. Like you go to these other college campuses, and yes, they're awesome. They're great. Their football programs are fun, and there's different things, but there's just something about Oxford that just changes it. And so for an in-state guy who was going to go to Alabama to now flip is massive for us. And I think it's also very nice that Nick Saban isn't around anymore, because he was an elite recruiter and typically stole a lot of those Mississippi guys from us. So I'm really excited for Caleb Cunningham, and I'm excited for pen to paper.
No, exactly. And you've worked in recruiting. So like you said, it's about when you bring kids to Oxford and building relationships, but just, I was looking over some of the quotes and stuff. You talk to the recruits and they talk about the atmosphere. They were just talking about how electric it was, seeing that win against Georgia. They're sharing videos, when they're storming the field. And like I said, Lane Kiffin couldn't have written a better script, set a better stage as far as the recruiting trail, because when you win big games like this, you not only win on the turf, but you win on the recruiting trail. And like I said, as much as Lane Kiffin is known for his portal prowess, and you've been there, you've watched it firsthand, Ruby, directly with the program, and I've watched it from the outside looking in, scouting, for us as well. It's a lot. It's a lot a lot of factors go in these days as far as recruiting. You got NIL, you got so many other influences, you got coaches and relationships, and recruiting is just a different dynamic. So, but when you go to Oxford, when you experience Ole Miss, all the players that I talk to as far as that we've gotten or that show interest, they talk about the relationships that the coaches build with them, but they talk about the atmosphere that they get to experience and how they can see themselves in there. And I think that, as much as we talk about, Lane can be on the horn with them. They can get letters, they can get mail, but until you're there, until you experience it, and these kids and their families can picture themselves there, it's a different dynamic. So like I said, this Georgia win was not only big on the recruiting on the turf, but on the recruiting trail, because, a lot of young guys, this is the future where it's going, even though Lane Kiffin, like I said, is the portal king, we've also seen it here. It's just how much that the young guys that we brought in from the high school recruiting aspect have played an impact. So, you want to continue to build on that. Not saying that we shouldn't hit the portal hard, but like I know Lane talked about it during SEC Media Days in the summer, every recruiting cycle is different. And, we went out there, we recruited defensive players, and now this year, what's our need? And, I think definitely, I don't know what you see, but I feel like we need to go out there and recruit some offensive linemen coming in. But again, it just goes to show that there can be a balance, between the success of portal players, but, also winning on the high school recruiting trail, which is very different and dynamic, with the age of NIL and so much more, is a big win overall.
For sure. And I think that Kiffin and his coaching staff in particular are very selective over which recruits that they're going to recruit hard, because they are big NIL people and they are a big transfer portal. So for him to be able to, this is very telling of they love this guy and they want him and they're putting the effort in to get him. And I think that that's a really big indicator that Caleb's probably going to be an Ole Miss Rebel.
Yeah. And you had said, Ruby, a few minutes ago that you want to see pen to paper. And that's the skepticism out there in this day and age. There are more and more flips than ever. However, at this late stage of the game, I think we can be fairly confident, a lot more confident than when they're committing, obviously, months and months in advance, where there's a lot of time for there to be negative recruiting on the other side and for flips to happen. So when that commitment's made in late, where are we, mid to late November, with National Signing Day coming up on December 4th, I think we're in pretty good shape, knowing that Caleb Cunningham's going to stay with that commitment.